Welcome to Screw the Commute, the entrepreneurial podcast dedicated to getting you out of the car and into the money with your host, lifelong entrepreneur and multimillionaire, Tom Antion.
Hey everybody, it's Tom here with episode 638 of Screw the Commute podcast. I'm here with Jonathan Green from Serve No Master podcast and accompanying book. And this guy is really living the lifestyle business. He's in a tropical island and, a couple 100 feet from the beach, and just love that. And it just so happens that the last episode 637, you hope you didn't miss that, is Jeff Herring on the Content Profit Show. And he got rid of his house and he's just living at Airbnbs, traveling all over the place. So it's beautiful lifestyle business. Now, make sure you grab a copy of our automation ebook. This, we updated the figures recently to about 8 million keystrokes. This is not exaggeration. That just one tip in this book has saved me. You are crazy. You are literally crazy if you don't implement these free and cheap things that are in this book. This is what allows me to spend time with prospects and customers and developing new products and services instead of wasting time fighting with my computer. So grab your copy at screwthecommute.com/automate free, screwthecommute.com/automate free. While you're at it, pick up a copy of our podcast app at screwthecommute.com/app. That's APP. Put us on your cell phone and tablet and take us with you on the road. And upcoming very soon is Vetpreneur Month, we call it, on Screw the Commute podcast. All September we'll be highlighting veteran entrepreneurs, so you don't want to miss that. All right, let's get to the main event. Jonathan Green is here with us, and Jonathan, are you ready to screw the commute?
Oh, I'm ready. I'm ready to rock out. I'm here. Let's do it.
Hey, Jonathan, listen, I heard that at 15 years old, you were told you were not good enough. And then eventually you were making more money than the lady that fired you. Tell us about that.
Yeah, everyone has their stories of adversity, right? We all like to root for the underdog. We've all had those moments where people said that, like, I think it's that we think we're born with certain things. Like, some people are born smart, some people are born funny, some people are born beautiful. And we think that, kind of like one of those role-playing games where you fill out the card and you only get so many points. And then once you've used your points, you can't get better at anything. So I was told in a lot of areas that I didn't have any ability, that I would never be popular, that I would never have my own business. A lot of things, I think we've all heard those, where people don't realize how powerful the words are, especially when we're young and adults speak it. So I had a lot of those moments where I was told I had no artistic ability. I was told just a lot of limiting things. And I thought, oh, okay, I'm never going to be great, but maybe I'll be okay. My dream when I was young was to have a little house with a little fence. I had I had a really small dream, and it was smaller than the house I grew up in, and smaller than, and I don't know why my dream was that small, but I was like, I just want a tiny life. And more than that, I wanted the fence so that people would leave me alone. And I think that's kind of been a through line throughout my life and my career, is that I wanted to get to a position where people could not bully me anymore, where they could not say things I don't want to hear, where they could not have the ability to take away my lunch money or beat me up. That
was an early day safe space you were looking for.
Yeah. It wasn't so much. There's also, like, I went to a kind of high school where you get into a lot of fights. I got beat up a lot in high school. So right. Getting punched in the mouth, getting thrown down a flight of stairs. Like, for me, it was like, I want to be in a place where, yeah, those things don't happen. Even in my mid-20s, I had a job at a really big company, and I had a bully at work who was, like, physically, like, choking me out and doing physical things to me. I was like, this is insane. I didn't know this happened at real companies. Right. And then I realized now I should have just sued the company and then I could have retired. But I told my manager, and I was like, wait a minute. Adults aren't supposed to be, I had a revelation. I go, adults aren't supposed to be allowed to do this. And I told my manager, they didn't fire the guy. They just basically changed him to I never saw him again. They moved him to another department, another shift. But I was like, oh, wait, adults aren't allowed to do that to each other. And I was 24 when I had that revelation. Wow. So, we all have different ways or different things that people have, like, discounted us or told us we're not capable of things. And yeah, a lot of it is And maybe that's where my idea of serve no master comes from, is that the last time I got fired, when about 12 or 13 years ago, I was like, wow, one boss has so much power. They take away your salary. It's going to be really hard to get your next job. Sometimes you can get fired at like a really inopportune time when nobody's hiring, right? It's like a bad time. Like no one's hiring right before Christmas. So if you lose your job like in December, there's nothing you can do for a month or 2 months. So there's certain times that are really bad. And you can lose your ability to pay your rent, to pay for your kids to go to school, to pay for your kids to eat. And it's really scary. So I just wanted to be in a situation where I'm in control of my destiny. And I think that's maybe what I think of as the American dream, is like the ability to determine your fate, that the harder you work or the more effort you put in, or leveraging your brilliance or skills, that you can get rewards based on that.
Well, yeah, and you talked about the boss having a lot of problems. You know what boss spells backwards?
Sob.
Double SOB.
Yeah.
And and I guess you got to watch those ex-girlfriends too, right? Because I noticed that you had the worst day of your life and the best day of your life. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So one of my ex-girlfriends called my job and got me fired, my last job. And it was really,
What did she
they made it.
say? What did she tell him?
So I was a teacher at a university.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I was teaching on a master's program. And at the last university I taught at, after I left, okay, that after I stopped working there, I was dating a student, except for she was 1 year younger than me. I was 28, she was 27. It wasn't like I was dating a college student. She was a master's student.
Mm-hmm.
And they made it into this thing that it wasn't. I was not dating someone while I was working there, while I was her teacher, none of those things. And she was not like a high school student or a college student. This was a master's student who was the same age as me, right?
Right.
And hadn't worked out. It had been, we dated for and by the way, we dated like 6 months, like a really long relationship. It only ended because my visa ran out, I had to leave countries. But the school spun it into something that it totally, what my new employer was like, oh, we can't have you dating students. I was like, I would never do that. It's not what happened, right? I did, like yeah, you can spin it into this one way, but it's like, no, this person was the same age as me. I wasn't her teacher anymore. It was after I'd stopped working there, but
I don't
none of
know.
those
You're
things
robbing the
mattered.
cradle, 27,
27 and I'm 20, and I was 28. It was like
I know.
really, but
This
it,
was in
when
London?
people,
Was this so when you were in London?
yeah, this was in London. And I mean, we had a really serious relationship. If my visa hadn't run out, we'd probably have gotten married. Like it was a really serious relationship. And the timing ran out for us, but the school was already looking for a reason to get rid of me, because I really struggle to fit into a corporate or an environment anywhere with a lot of like a really large staff, because the larger and larger the bureaucracy, the more it's about perception, not reality. So they would give me projects that were supposed to last for 6 months and I couldn't do it. It would take me 30 minutes or an hour. And I go, how did anyone spin this into months of work? I can't even imagine
That's
what's.
that's why I hate the corporate stuff. You have to have a 2-week committee meeting to take a leak. It's just
Well,
I can't understand these people that they're just worthless slugs that just want to sit there and do nothing. I mean, it's not in my DNA. It's obviously not in your DNA.
well, the way those systems are built is they're time based. So any job where they measure your output by time that's one of the worst measurements of someone's work,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because two people, like, let's say you and me are in a race. I'm very slow. So maybe we each run for 8 hours and you run 10 miles and I run 1, but they pay us the same because we both ran for the same amount of hours.
Yeah.
That's how most companies work, because they don't have the ability to assess your output. And this especially happens once you start inserting middle managers into a company, or multiple layers of middle management. You have people that don't have a vested interest in output. They switch into a CYA mode. Like they're all about protecting their own job and like getting the next promotion more than anything else. So for example, let's say you're a manager and you have an employee who's really underperforming. If you report that employee, it makes you look bad. So maybe you don't get your next promotion. So they have these structures that actually reward misbehavior and misreporting. And I remember I had every conversation I had at that job was so weird, because I didn't come from an environment of like, I hadn't been doing this type of culture for 10 years of bureaucracy where I knew the games and where I knew like everything is like a trick and everyone is like trying to plot against each other. And I just couldn't understand why they would care about these things. I remember one time someone got really jealous that I had a new chair in my office. And I was like, well, when I started my job, there was no chair. So it's not that I got a new chair, it's that I got a chair. And they got real like they were jealous of like really weird things. I was like, no, no, no. When I started, there wasn't a desk, there wasn't a chair, and there wasn't a computer. So they had to get those things because they didn't, it's not as though I got an upgrade, right? But people got really jealous of
But
things
can
like
you
that. And
imagine the mentality of a worthless slug like that? That's their biggest problem in life. You got a
it's,
chair to
yeah,
sit on. Oh
It,
man.
I mean, you're talking about a $50 chair. It wasn't like I got a sweet Aeron, like
Yeah.
1,000. Like, you would
Right.
understand that it was like a cool $1,000 chair or like a massaging
Would
chair.
they have been happier if you'd had like a milk crate or something, you know?
No, they would have been like, well, why you got a milk crate?
Yeah.
Like, what did you do to earn the milk crate? And I do it because I hadn't come from that culture. I don't know how to respond to that type of question. Right?
I would have
I've
thought they
never
were
said,
kidding, you know?
well, yeah. And that's the problem I did too at first. I go, this can't be real because this is insane. And you discover also like a lot of the things were super crazy. So this is a big university, and my department goes, well, our software doesn't integrate with the university software. And I said, what? Like, so there's a huge amount of time is basically is data entry,
Uh-huh.
where you look at one computer screen and copy it to another.
Oh
And
my
I was
God.
like, this is insane. And you discover that like when the way they make purchasing decisions, whether it's software or anything, like education has like they basically take 3 years to buy software. So by the time they buy it, it's no longer
Yeah,
good.
it's
Like it
obsolete,
doesn't
yeah.
work anymore. They're like, hey, we just got Windows Millennium. I was like, what? That's from 20 years ago. So all of these things that are designed in a particular way are not the way I operate. I would rather get all my work done in an hour and just go home. Right.
Right.
But their culture is built around, no, you got to burn those hours. And I was doing things like taking 2-hour walks. And I remember when they hired me, my boss goes, most people, once they start here, they work here for the rest of their careers. And so I got really depressed. I was actually really struggling with depression because within a week, I was already thinking like, how long do I have to work this job to pay off all my student loans? And then I can leave. And there's just no, happiness. You're surrounded by people that are very competitive and very snarky, which is very common in anything that has heavy bureaucracy. It's the same thing
Yeah,
with
sure.
government, really large companies, really, and education is especially, right?
Yeah.
Education, the whole thing is they pretend that they're nonprofit and then they have like $54 billion in the bank and they go,
Right.
but we're not here for profit. Like they have so much money and they always pretend they need more. And everyone I encountered in that environment was like unpleasant. They all were like, we would bring in teachers from other departments and they were like total, like, I don't know any word I can say on the podcast to describe them, but they were really unpleasant. And they were getting paid $500 an hour to do like trash work. Right. And they were like, I was like, man, for $500 an hour, most people would do just about anything,
Right.
let alone like read from a book for 30 minutes,
You
or
can
do
get
a
a hit.
small.
You can get a hitman for for that. So
That's
no,
this is per hour. And you just discover that there's when people are in environments where it's very hard to get fired, right? That's the whole thing.
yeah,
It's built around
right.
in everything CYA, that everything is really, really inefficient and no one is there looking for efficiency.
Right.
So I just did not fit in that environment. So getting fired, basically I had the new job. I was so excited, like an idiot. I had the paper saying like the job offer paper and was saying my salary. And I went and signed a lease on a new apartment. I bought a new car Friday and Saturday. And then Monday I went in and they fired me.
Oh, gee.
And as I was driving home in a blizzard, I was like, I never want to feel this way again. Most of the defining moments of my life are a moment where I go, I never want someone to be
Right.
able to do this again. And I just realized that like that career was over. I could have still gotten other jobs in that industry, but I didn't want to do it. That's the best job I could have gotten in my old career of
That was your
education.
dream. You
I don't,
called it your dream job, right?
I
You
was at the
thought.
peak of my career. I'd done my postgraduate work. So while I was teaching on that one master's course, I was also finishing my own master's course. So I just finished and got my master's degree like a couple of weeks earlier. And that I had the best job of anyone from my graduating class. No one else was making the money I was, had a job of the level I was. Most of them were much lower jobs with much less prestige and much less money. And yeah, you think it's your dream until you get there. That's kind of one of the big disappointments of the American dream is they tell you the things you want. And then when you get them, you go, well, I don't want any of these things. This
Yeah, the
idea that
colleges play off of that. And don't forget, you did get a chair. so that's part of your compensation package, I guess. But
Yeah, you're taught
but these,
all of these.
yeah, they were just here in the States. The president, I don't even want to call him that. The Biden just gave $10,000 forgiveness to student loans, which is now going to give the universities another excuse to raise, to just charge more because people have more money to spend, more administrators. Yeah, it's terrible. But all right, so let's get past all that doom and gloom. And so you were driving home in a blizzard. What happened then?
So I'd been doing side hustles. Like I'd had a little website. I'd done a little bit of coaching stuff I've done some tutoring through websites, like built my own websites. And I was like, you know what? I'm going all in. And I really started working on like building my own business. And I said, I need to do something online where I make money fast. So it's very different. Like a lot of these online business models are very slow. It takes 6 months or 2 years, right? You start building a blog and it takes 2 years, or a YouTube channel, 5 years, or a podcast can take years to make money. So I can't do that. I need money fast. So what I wanted to do was sell services. So I started off selling search engine optimization services in Nashville, where I was living at the time. And I said, I'll do this. I put up, and I didn't realize it was a really good idea, but it turned out to be a great idea. I just started doing ads on Craigslist. I looked at
Yeah.
everyone else's ads and I just made a better ad. So I just had a visual ad. So at the time, I know Craigslist has changed the rules now, but at the time you could have an image that was clickable.
Right.
So my whole ad would just be an image that looked like a postcard. And it was like, and then basically it was either a picture of a meteor, a picture of an iceberg, or a picture of a volcano. And it would say cool stuff on it, like sweet SEO, rank your website. And people would click on it. And I got a ton of business from that, from that one idea that was a good idea. I said, I'll just make an ad that looks better than everyone else's. And that's all I did. And I got better and better and better at that over time. But I put up my first ad on a Saturday and got my first client on a Thursday. They only paid me $200. It was all she could afford, but it was so fast, right? It was like I go, oh, this proves this idea can work. And I did really great work for her business until recently. It was ranking #1 for all these keywords. Unfortunately, someone in the same industry as her became a criminal. And so their crime now ranks for everything. But as far as a business ranking, like 12 years later, still her website's #1 and getting like really good results. So I did a good job for her. I learned a lot from there, and I just began to get more and more clients. And then you go through the phase where you learn the difference between client acquisition, client management, because you'll make the big mistake you make when you're starting out is you make these really big promises and you're like, I'll do anything to close the client. And I would make these promises. I'm like, look, I'll be your SEO ninja. I will be available 24/7. You call me anytime you have any question. I said, look, you can hire a big agency, but if everything happens at 5:01 p.m., you're SOL. They will not answer the phone, which is true. They take the weekends off. I don't do that. You have my cell phone number, da, 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 da. The problem is then people start to do it, start to call you all the time. And not a lot, just some of them. You basically get a mix of good and bad clients when you're close, because you're saying anything to close, and you have to learn to calibrate what you promise. And I just built and built on that. I built out a book of about 10 clients, and I realized this is the most you can manage when you're doing the service and when you're doing the sales. So then I had to learn how to like outsource some of the services for a while. And I did that for about 2 years and really learned how to do that type of business. And it still can be a great business, but it's hard to travel with it. I wanted to move. So I wanted to move to Florida about 2 years later. So I dropped my local clients, only kept my national clients, and began moving into building my own products and kind of that direction, and doing affiliate marketing so that I could have a lot more locational freedom, which was the next level I wanted to get to.
You sure have it now. Tell them about where you live, the type of place you live in.
Yeah. So I'd probably say this 3 or 4 times a day. Like, I can't believe I live in a house this nice. We just moved in a little over a month ago. No, actually just less than a month ago. And my landlord was like, well, and he did a massive amount of construction after we moved in. I was like, is this guy insane? We're not paying enough that will cover what he invested in just in repairs in the last month. Even a year's worth of us paying the rent won't cover that. So it's 6 bedrooms, which is insane. we actually had to tell them there were too many TVs. I was like, you got to take some of the TVs out. We have a lot of kids. There's just too many TVs. And they're all like 50 inches.
Oh
And
my
every room
God.
has a new air conditioner. It's really, we have a pool. We live, and we live, I don't know if I told you this because this started happening after our last talk.
Yeah.
We live in the jungle. So this is like a preserve kind of. So
Uh-huh.
there's only a few houses in this area, and we have a lot of monkeys. We have a monkey situation where like I'll be swimming and I'll look up and 30 monkeys are watching me. So they're not like, and it's, I guess you have to create a detente when you live next to monkeys, which is, I won't mess with you if you don't mess with me because I'm bigger, but there's a lot of you. So
Yeah.
we have like this, I guess you could call it an uneasy alliance.
And monkeys are
Because
strong too. What kind of monkeys are these? These are big ones or
no, they're not
chimps
really
or
big. They're
little ones?
probably 20 to 30 pounds, I would say.
Yeah, but boy, they're strong.
Yeah, and they're definitely stronger than my kids. I haven't wrestled one. So we kind of like, they
They
eat the
bite you too,
coconuts.
right?
We haven't had that.
Yeah.
We haven't had any incidents. Like they aren't violent. They haven't done anything confrontational. They just sometimes they're not by the house all the time. Actually, today they came by. They hadn't been by in 2 days. I was like, "Where's the monkeys?" So they come by sometimes. That's because we have a bunch of fruit trees that we don't eat. Like there's a ton of coconut trees near us, and there's
Wow.
some other fruit trees that are kinds that we don't have in America. And it's not like it's a banana tree because I would eat those. But they, and I'm like, well, they're just eating stuff out of the tree. It doesn't bother me. They don't like eat our food or try and sneak in the house or anything. But it's cool. It's like nice to have like this amazing adventure. We have this view over the ocean because we're on a little cliff. So we're right next. If I jump off my balcony, I'm in the water, but it's quite high. So we have this like, but it's just your dreams can come true. And part of it was just I wanted to travel. I wanted to be able to live anywhere. And that was kind of part of it. A lot of people that started out when I did, they built offices and started wearing suits and stuff. And I go, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I don't. So everyone's definition of freedom is different. Some people, it's a lot of money and a lot of houses and a lot of cars. Like you see movie stars who have like 6 castles, but you can't live in that many houses. Right. And then some people, it's just living in a mountain or having a house that's solar powered, or some people, it's being able to travel full time. My freedom is really being able to live somewhere where no one bothers us. We live in a really remote area. So we have a lot of privacy, which is what I want. Just be able to do what I want, work when
Sounds
I
like
want.
your internet connection is pretty good. This interview is going well.
Yeah, we have gigabit internet, which is insane. So the
Really?
first internet company came by and they were like, "Oh, it was a huge amount of money for 25 megabits." I go, "That seems really expensive considering
Yeah.
our last house was 100 megabits for less." And then someone on the road, this is how things are here. My wife is walking down the street and someone goes, "Hey, you guys want internet?" Just randomly shouts at my wife and she goes, "Yeah, what do you got?" He goes, "I got gigabit." This is a real business. My wife has these amazing conversations just walking down the street, and it always sounds like a scam.
Yeah,
And
I'm
then they
thinking
show up
like a
from the
parking lot. You're like a drug deal, but here's a gigabit connection.
yeah, I was like this. I was like, "What do you mean?" It's because it's basically was like a cat call. Like, "Hey, lady, you want fast internet?" And they didn't know that she had just had someone else come by, so they came and installed it. It's so fast. We actually have an issue that most of our devices don't go that fast. So like, some of our phones only use the 2.5, not the
Yeah,
5 gigahertz. So
right.
that's a new challenge, is that like, which I never thought I would have. I didn't think we'd ever have gigabit internet. So that's like
Right.
really, really cool. My last house where I was living until last year, I didn't have internet during the day. I used to only have internet from midnight to 6 a.m. So I go, this is my paradise tax. My kids live an amazing life. We live on the beach. They go surfing every day. They're swimming every day. Okay, I'll only work at night. That's the trade-off. But here, I still mostly work at night because that's the only time it's quiet when you have 4 kids.
Yeah.
But I can check emails and do stuff during the day, where at my old house, the speed during the day was 0.01
Oh
megabytes,
my God.
which means basically you can't load an email. There's an internet speed at which you can't open email, and that's what we had.
Oh man. But gigabit, geez. And we're not going to reveal exactly where you are, but it sounds like a very interesting place in front of the monkeys.
Yeah, we bounce around a lot. We moved to different islands, but I just realized when I was around 30, I go, I always live on islands. I've lived in Japan for a long time. I lived in Wales, and then I lived near London. England is basically an island. And I just love being near the beach. I love seeing sunsets. I love swimming. So I kind of built a life around my dreams. Like the last place I was before here, I was in the Ukraine about 10 years ago, 12 years ago or something. My last girlfriend before my wife was Ukrainian. And I was like, and you're walking down the street and the street just has 2 inches of ice on it at Christmas. And I go, I don't ever want to be this cold again.
Yeah.
So like, I did this is so cold where the ground is literally ice. I said, this is too much for
Right,
me. Let
right.
me just go where I'm always hot. And my kids and my wife have never been in snow. So they're watching movies where people are skiing. They go, I just want to swim in the snow. I go, no, it's cold. But they've never actually been cold. The one time we were on vacation and there was a playground that had like snow in it and the snow machine was broken. So my kids have never been that cold. The coldest they've been is like 60 degrees Fahrenheit,
Oh my God.
which they're like, it's freezing. I might have to put on socks with my shoes.
Oh boy, what a great lifestyle. So tell them about the book. Let me read the title. Serve No Master: How to Escape the 9 to 5, Start Up an Online Business, Fire Your Boss, and Become a Lifestyle Entrepreneur or Digital Nomad. So tell them about the book.
Sure. It's a mix of my story about losing my job and other people having power of me, having good and bad bosses, and also realizing that there's so many opportunities online. Whatever you do, you can do it online and you can find what you're really great at. It could be voiceovers. I've had people read my book and then they become audiobook narrators full time,
Yeah.
or start a crudité business, or all these amazing things. And there's this moment, this is the really key moment that you hopefully people gain from the book, is that it's possible. So a couple of the points in my life where things really changed were just when I learned it was possible. So when I was 17, I learned it was possible to get better at being friends. I had no friends until I was 17. And I said, what if it's possible to get better? And I studied this guy, Nathan Els, was my friend's older brother. He was the first person I met who was popular and nice. I didn't know that existed till I was 17. And I go, I always want to be around him. And he was so nice to me. And we were friends for like 5 or 6 years after. I go, and he was the most popular person I knew. I go, this guy is popular. He's in a band and he's nice. So I just studied him and learned how to be popular. It changed my life. And then when I was 27, I learned you could get better at dating. That's how I met my wife. I go, oh, you can become better at dating, better at talking to people, better at making people feel nice. And this possibility of improving this, then I realized, oh, it's possible to become an entrepreneur. I always thought, oh, I'm not an entrepreneur. So my book really teaches you that it's possible and then shows different types of business models, because what I do is not what you do. You and me are slightly different. We have different business models because we have different skill sets, and that's okay. There are so many amazing opportunities. And and even if you don't want to leave your job, some people have like really high job security. They think they're at a company that's too big to fail. And maybe you are, maybe some people are, but we've all seen really big companies do really bad things, right? Like where they just go, oh, we got to fire 10% of our employees.
Right, right.
So it's my belief is that you should have a backup plan and you should start working on it now. It's the same thing for people. You never notice that someone only updates their LinkedIn profile right after they lose their job. It's like you should have done it earlier. You update your resume before it happens, but we wait until the disaster happens before we prepare things. But I want people to have a secondary revenue stream, even if it's just making $100 or $200 a month, that you go, if you lose your job or something happens, you get extra money, you have an emergency, you have this resource you can tap into, or you can put more time into it to grow it. It's really hard, that first $0 to $100 a month, that first 0 to 1, that's the hardest challenge. Because once you do that, then you go, oh, I can just do double the work, make double the money. And you can start building on it. But having that foundation, the earlier you do that, then when you need it, it's there. It's a resource that's there. And maybe you never have a family emergency, you never have a medical emergency. So you just have this vacation fund. That's okay. So that's really like my core belief. And it's that you just can't trust other people to take care of you. There's so many people who follow me. I got an email today from a lady who's 78 and she's starting another career. Why? Well, because it turns out the government doesn't give you enough to take care of you, because some people live to be 120 now, right? Like there's these expectations and this reliance on other people, and you just have to be self-reliant, and it's just a form of that. So that's what I really like to teach people, is that it's possible. I talk a lot about how you can be generous in building your business. Like my business mostly focuses on generosity rather than sales, because when you're really generous, you put a lot of good karma into the world, the rest of the things kind of fall into place. And that mindset shift has really helped my business grow over the last 5 years.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah. And I kind of call it like an insurance policy for you. You know, and I got in a hunting accident and money kept coming in because I was laid up in intensive care, and you build this, what we call VRE, virtual real estate online, and it's low risk, high returns, you know, so it's just a beautiful thing, but we call it insurance policy here. So we got to take a brief sponsor break. When we come back, we're going to ask Jonathan about what's his typical day look like, and also he's got a great freebie for you. So hang in there. So, folks, I don't know, about 25 years ago or so, I started my mentor program, which is the longest running, continuously running, most successful, most unique ever in internet and digital marketing. You get a immersion trip to the retreat center here in Virginia Beach, where you actually live in this big mansion with me for an immersion weekend. We have a TV studio here where we shoot marketing videos for you, teach you how to do it. And it's all one-on-one. There's no group stuff other than the couple days you spend here at the retreat center. But I never had any luck with group stuff, because if I'm talking to the advanced people, the beginners are lost. And if I'm talking to the beginners, the advanced people are wondering why they gave me money. So I said, forget it. So you get one-on-one attention and tutoring with myself and my entire staff. And the financial model is my success is tied to your success, or nobody at my level will do that. For me to make big money, you have to make big money. Check it out at greatinternetmarketingtraining.com, greatinternetmarketingtraining.com. 1,700 plus students have enjoyed this with no lawsuits and no people, ragging on me because I'm a crazy fanatic. All right, so check it out, greatinternetmarketingtraining.com. Let's get back to the main event. Jonathan Green's here. He's living the lifestyle business in a tropical island with monkeys as his audience when he practices his speeches, I guess. So I don't know. But Jonathan, what's a typical day look like for you?
I get up every day at 5:45. My trainer comes over at 6, and I work out me and my wife for 20 to 40 minutes.
Nice.
I try to keep it tight 20 because I just won't go to the gym unless I have someone come over. So that's one of the things I've invested in, because as you age, you have to be more and more fastidious about your health. Then I have my morning shake, like a breakfast shake.
Mm-hmm.
Again, trying to watch that weight, just being real with you. And then I go swimming to cool off from the workout. Then my kids start waking up now. They just restarted school this last couple of days, so we're getting used to that rhythm. Here, there's all sorts of really different rules. So the kids aren't allowed to start school at the same time. So it's like a lot more work. So 2 kids go to school at 8, and another one, my next son, goes to school at 10. So we kind of have to rhythm it. And then they finish at different times. They make it really tough. So that's, my wife and the nannies handle that. So while they're doing that, and then I do my morning work stuff, a lot of my morning is taking up working with this team that I'm mentoring. So I'm working with 2 brothers and one of their wives who are just blowing up on TikTok. So I'll do an hour phone call with them to kind of assess what they worked on the day before, what the projects are to help them grow, and what we're going to do for the next week, and kind of what I need to help them with for the day. I help with a lot of the tech stuff because they're just really good at one thing, and I do some of the other stuff with them. So that's mostly what I do in the morning. I'll answer some emails, kind of check if there's anything major going on. But usually in the morning, I only work an hour or 2 hours. Then during the day, I'll spend time with my daughter, who's almost 2 years old. So she's not in school yet. So I'll go swimming with her, play games with her. Maybe I'll play a video game with her, just different stuff like that. Just spend a little time, do some work on TikTok myself, because that I can do from my phone. So I can kind of be chilling out and do that work. Then in the afternoons, I take my nap. Right, my kids come home from school. I spend time with them. Maybe we watch a movie, and then around 7, I usually start working at night. And just depending upon the day, I'll either work for 5 hours. Sometimes I work for 10 hours. Maybe once or twice a week, I do a longer shift where I'm just in the zone, and I'll work on my blog, work on my podcast. There's a lot of outreach back and forth with managing guests and managing, as you know, like getting the podcast out on time, all that stuff,
Right.
Making sure that's all organized and scheduled on the calendars. Same thing for blog. I'm doing a lot of outreach and a lot of guest posts just to try and just drive more traffic to my blog. That's kind of one of the big pushes I'm on right now. So spend some time on that. And then I work on, then the other big thing for me is my emails. Most of my revenue comes from email.
Yeah, me too.
So maybe at least 90% of my revenue just comes from email. So I have 4 or 5 email accounts now for different parts of my business. So I have to write those emails up and I queue them up. I try to have like a week or 2 weeks in advance done. So I'm always trying to get as far ahead as I can with those. And then that's just autopilot income, right? Because it's all done. That's the broadcast emails. That's the most important thing I do. The rest of the day doesn't matter except for the emails. So the rest of the day is almost make work to make it feel like I'm still working. And to like be like still feel productive because it's the only thing that matters. Just looking at my little list of what I had to work on today. Mostly it's about basically managing the calendar, seeing what I'm going to be mailing or promoting or cross promoting or who's mailing my offer over the next few months. I try to be scheduled as far as I can. I'm like 3 or 4 months ahead right now. So I know what's going to happen every week. So that lets me just prepare emails weeks in advance. And that means, like you said, when something happens, my family was in a natural disaster 8 months ago where
Wow.
we lost internet power. We were all starving. Me and all 4 of my kids were in the hospital. Basically, we were all within 1 to 3 days of dying. We got to the hospital
Yikes.
and with no power, no internet. And I get a message from a friend of mine. He goes, "Hey, great job with your emails this week. Where do you want me to send the money?" And he sent enough money to cover all the hospital bills, like just in a cash payment. I was like, this is amazing, right?
Yeah.
Even when you're not working, the revenue comes in. That's why you got to be a little bit ahead because
Yep.
anything can happen. So those are mostly things I work on. A lot of it is really it's about being organized and building process for whatever you want to do. And then just focusing on a small, narrow thing that you're really good at. Right. So the big danger for me and for a lot of people is that you get distracted by a lot of ideas like, oh, I should do Pinterest, or oh, I should do YouTube, oh, I should do this, or I should do that. Maybe I should do print on demand. Maybe I should do FBA. And there's all these things you can do online. And the problem is if you get really distracted and you do 10 things, okay, instead of one thing, great. It takes 10 times as long. You really delay. So everything I do is all built around driving people to my website and growing my email list. So everything I do is
Yep.
always driven towards that one goal. And that's how I stay focused. Like even the purpose of my podcast is to meet more people, do collaborations, and to get more awareness of who I am and what I do, and to get, links to my website because that increases how much you appear in search results. So everything I do is tied together. It's always that purpose. So having that through line of my day helps me to stay organized because it's very, very easy to get distracted. And I'm guilty of this. Like I'll have a really good day and then it won't work for weeks unless I have organization. So that's why I've just become more of a process driven person.
Well, yeah, same thing here. I mean, I don't even look like very substantial on social media because everything I do is to get them the hell off of there onto my email list. And so that's where I make all the money. I won't say all because if I do a speaking engagement, I get big bursts of income. But the email is the one that can always count on. So you got a freebie for them, right?
Yes, I'm always giving away one of my books. You're more than welcome to go to Amazon and look up my name and buy one of my books, which I always appreciate. But I always give away a different book in a rotation at givetogetfree.com. And it's either my book, Fire Your Boss, or my book, Serve No Master, or my book, Give to Get. Each of those books is really built around helping you. And you can just, wait a few weeks and check the link and it'll be linking to another one of the books. I kind of rotate it, but it's
Love.
really about giving value first so that you can see what I'm all about. You don't have to buy my book. You don't have to spend money and buy one of my courses or anything. You can go through the book and see, okay, I like what Jonathan's all about or I don't. So I really want you to get a feel for who I am, what I stand for, and if I'm the kind of person you want to spend time with or not.
Yeah, and it's give to TO, right? It's not the number two,
Yep.
right? Give
No
to
numbers.
getfree.com. And
Mm-hmm.
also, if you have a real interest in monkeys, Jonathan can tell you what it's like to live next to them, I guess. But wow, it's a great lifestyle business, great family interaction. I love it that you're able to spend so much time with your kids and just beautiful. And I'll just assure you, make it full circle. You are good enough, man. I don't give a shit what those people said when you were 15. You're good enough. So thanks so much for coming on, man.
No, thanks for having me. I've had a good time. You asked really good questions. I talk about stuff I don't normally talk about.
Well,
So you're
good.
good at this.
That's 600 and what is it? 638 episodes. I get you. I guess if you pay attention, you can get a little better at this.
Yeah,
So
you finally figured it out. Now I know
yeah.
600 episodes and I get good.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, thanks so much for coming on. And folks, check out givetogetfree.com. And is that also a lead if they wanted to contact you directly?
Yeah, you can reply to any email from me. It all comes from my personal email address, or you can just go to Serve No Master and I have a contact form there. And that's my blog with all my other information.
That's
If you just
servenomaster.com, right?
Google Serve No Master, every result is me.
Got it.
So It's all me.
All right. It's all you. All right, man. So thanks so much. And everybody, we will catch you on the next episode. See you later.
Bye.